Hello, guys, and welcome to today's off-season outlook and discussion. And today is going to be a pretty big one because the Colorado State University has put out their Atlantic hurricane season forecast for the year 2024. So let's take a look at here the numbers that they have for this year, and they are pretty high. This is the highest they've ever gone ever in their history of their forecasting here. They're calling for 23 named storms, 115 named storm days, 11 hurricanes, 45 hurricane days, 5 majors, 13 major hurricane days, 210 ace, and 126 of those ace being west of 60, which is not so good news if you're living in any areas west of 60, and a net tropical cyclone activity of 220. Now, that's that is pretty big. Um, that is solidly hyperactive right there as we head into the 2024 hurricane season. Now, mind you, it is April, right? A lot can change between now and June and any other year, right? I mean, it still could this year, but you know, I just don't see a lot happening between now and say June for this to change much in their June forecast. So we're just gonna have to see how that all pans out going forward in time. All right, so let us take a look at the probabilities of at least one major hurricane landfall in some of these locations. The entire continental United States coastline has a 62% chance of seeing a major hurricane landfall this year. The average from 1880 to 2020 is 43%. Now, U.S. East Coast, and that is with the Florida Peninsula, south and east of Cedar Key, right? They are they could see a 34% chance of seeing a major hurricane. Average is 21. Gulf Coast from Florida Peninsula, the Florida Panhandle, excuse me, west and north of Cedar Key, all the way to Brownsville, Texas. They could see a 42% chance of seeing a major landfall this season. Average is 27. And because it's a La Nina year, you guys in the Caribbean are going to have to especially watch out carefully for some of these systems that like to come to the west because, La Ninas typically favors a little bit stronger of ridging, right? So you're going to have to really pay attention to that. Their probabilities of seeing a major hurricane here is 66%. That's pretty up there. And the average there is 47%. Now, I'm not going to go over everything here, but we're just going to see some of the key factors going into the forecast of this season. And as you can see, this is pretty nuts here. This is plus 4.6 standard deviance above the long-term average here when it comes to June to March SSTs, and that's pretty big. February to March, we're looking at plus 1.9 standard deviance above the long-term average. So some of the things that go into the season here is we're looking at SSTs here, and as you can see, these reds, obviously are well above the long-term average here when it comes to August-October correlations with what we have today. So, that's gonna be needing to be watched here as we go out through time because we're in April, right? I mean, the NAO, could cool it, could warm it up, but I think as we go into March, that wham is gonna start up, and that's gonna help warm those waters again on those kind of causes as we head through time. Let us see here. What do we want here? Let's take a look at some of these other forecasts here from the JMA hybrid here. They're calling for 22 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 6 major hurricanes with 229 ace. Uh, what CSU does is, I think they average out these six, forecasts here to come up with their final forecast. And CSU, Phil Klotzbot himself said that their forecast is below the consensus. So, keep that in mind as we head out through the next couple of months here. Let's see another forecast here. CMCC, I guess that's the Canadian. They're calling for 25 named storms, 14 of those being hurricanes, 7 majors. So they're pretty much calling for record breaking activity when it comes to major hurricanes here, and pretty much their ace counter too. They have 280 ace for that. So let's see if they got any Enzo stuff in here, because Enzo is quite important as well. Oh, here we go, Enzo. So here we go. This is the SST anomalies in some of these bases here in the equatorial Pacific. As you can see here, Nino 4. We don't pay attention to that very much. Nino 1+2 and Nino 3.4, in my opinion, are the most important regions of the Enzo here. And as you can see here, the Nino 1+2 is really taking a hit here, and that's been going down pretty big over the last couple of months. Here's the equatorial upper ocean heat content. As you can see, some of these anomalies are way down there, man. We're looking at close to negative 0.9, of upper ocean heat content, and that's definitely not good news for the Pacific there. And here we see these blues here starting to show up in the 1+2 region, and that is indicative of some negative ones here that are starting to pop up here. And these are going to propagate westward as we go out through time. We're going to take another look at another version of this here. Well, not another version of it, but another website of this here in a little bit. And as you can see, here, this is important. This right here is mighty important here. This is forecasted from April 1st, but obviously we're in April 4th right now. So we are just now getting done with these westerly wind bursts. And from here, we see these blues, greens colors here. That is indicative of easterly wind bursts here. And that's going to start to cool off the equatorial Pacific here as we move in through the next 10 days or so. So that's going to be important to watch and see how this correlates to how fast the 3.4 region cools here in the next 10 days. Maybe we might have another westerly wind burst event, but it looks weak here around the 15th of April. And here is another graph right here that shows the probabilities of El Nino, neutral, or La Nina here. And we're pretty much, right in this area right here. So we're almost done with El Nino right now. And then it looks like a really quick transition over to La Nina when we get into the May, June, July timeframe, and that's gonna be where things are gonna be really, really, really important, because from that point onward, I don't see much deviations going on, with the correlations of how active it's gonna be. So pretty much this month right here that we're in right now, April, is pretty much the last month that we could potentially see some cracks in the shields for the season, perhaps. We're just going to have to see what happens here as we go out through the next month and a half or so. This is not going to update until mid-month, but we'll go over this anyways. So yeah, we're firmly still in El Nino right here, as shown by the February, March, April timeline here. But as we go into the next tri-monthly, that El Nino chances start to drop down a little bit, and the Enzo neutral starts to rise, and that's going to be pretty important too, because even if we get out of the El Nino and go to neutral, right? Those we saw what happened last year with the SSTs and how they played out with the El Nino, base state, and we saw almost 150 aces that last year and 20 named storms. So you know, historically, after you get out of a El Nino and go into a La Nina, typically the season starts off a little bit slower, but I do not see that as being the case this year, just because of those warm SSTs that we have in the Atlantic this year. So yeah, this is pretty big, guys. This is pretty big. Normally, I don't like to hype things up. I like to give you guys the facts, and right now it's not looking too good. So just keep in mind, plan for for the hurricane season to start here. And right here, now we're taking a look at the SSTs here, and this is pretty much the 30-year climatological average here, the 14-day average, and it's just boiling here across the Gulf, the Caribbean, and in the MDR region. So we're just gonna have to see how that evolves over the next month or two as we head into the season. And with that, I think we are done with this. Oh yeah, another important thing here is the state by state predictions for if a named storm can come your way or not. And some of these places like Florida here has a 96% chance of seeing a tropical storm landfall. Well, not landfall. This is 50 miles from a storm, and it's 96% for Florida for a named storm. 75% chance of a hurricane being 50 miles from landfall, and 44% chance of a major being 50 miles from landfall. And let's see some more here. Texas is pretty big this year. They haven't seen much in the last year or two, besides Harold last year. They have an 80% chance of seeing a named storm 50 miles from landfall, 54% of a hurricane being 50 miles from landfall, and 25% chance of a major being close to 50 miles from landfall. So, with that being said, that is going to be it for the CSU stuff. So, let's go on to the actual SSTs here. And as you can see here in the Enzo region, you see those blues starting to really pop up here in the 1.2 region and 3 regions. And that is going to propagate westward as we head out through time. And that's going to start the effect to the 3.4 region. And it's going to really start to cool those temperatures down as we head out through time. So, North Atlantic here, what we want to see here, if we want a busy season, right? We're going to go through that. This is a check mark right here. This little area from France all the way to the Caribbean. That's a check mark. The subtropics, that seems to be a question, or not a question mark, but a check mark for now. Typically, when we get into the season, things start to warm up in the subtropics. We've seen that over the last decade or so. But if we see that the subtropics is still cooler relative to the MDR, the instability problems shouldn't be that bad this year for tropical cyclone development in the main development region. Another thing that's going to help these main development region tropical cyclogenesis is this plus AMM here, which is pretty much the Atlantic El Nino here, and that promotes, vorticity over the eastern and central main development region, which could potentially help for more tropical cyclone genesis. So, with that being said, let's take a look at these graphs here, and as you can see, like I showed you guys with that blue red chart on the CSU thing, easterlies are starting to take effect on the 3.4 region here as we're starting to dip a little bit here, and honestly this should continue through the next week or two before we might see another bout of westerlies. I'm not too sure how well that's going to trend going forward. Here's another important one. The 1+2 region is starting to go up a little bit, but as you can see from this, I don't know if I buy that too much. If I can be completely honest with you, uh, Atlantic MDR, it's been on a seesaw roller coaster ride as of late. Right now, we're on a slight decline, but we're still way above average. We are plus 1.210 above the long term average here. And the same goes for the Eastern Atlantic as well. We've seen mountains and valleys, roller coaster rides all throughout the 3 month period. Right now, we're at a slight incline. But again, we look at this number up on the top right here, and it's plus 1.355 degrees Celsius above the long term average here. So, I'll tell you this: even if we warm, or not warm, but cool half a degree to, maybe negative 0.750 degrees Celsius, I still don't see that stopping a very busy hurricane season because of everything else that's going on around the Atlantic at this time. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. We got less than 2 months away from the hurricane season. Time's going by quickly. Uh, Tomorrow I might have another video because the Euro for seasonal is coming out. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. Anyways, I'm Alan Snyder signing off, and I'll see you guys on the next one.